Let's get started then. Starting with reciting the verse, we have God has bought from the believers themselves and their possessions in exchange for paradise. This could be taken psychologically that if you sell yourself and all the possessions that you have, then in exchange, you're going to get a paradise in return. The reciprocal ending in this supreme, spiritual, noble transaction is paradise. But we shouldn't go too far, like a distant paradise. No, actually, when humans are able to let go of their possessions, it could be, an emotional possession to people who are illegally or unlawfully in love. This is a possession that they are possessing each other, but they should drop it and let it go for the sake of God. And then they're going to get a sweetness of faith, which looks like a paradise on earth. Could be a physical possession. I don't know, a car, a jacket, an expensive, an exorbitant watch, whatever it is. As another verse reminds us, when we give off from what we love, then what we get is goodness. And goodness and happiness is closely tied. We have two giant luminaries and thinkers in this discussion. Fathullah Gulen and again Aristotle believed that to the extent of our goodness, we receive happiness. And paradise is by definition where happiness reaches it is zenith, reaches it is peak. You see what I mean? So there's an intertwined, interpenetrating connection between one's inner sense of happiness and one's extent of doing good deeds. And we cannot get any of these unless we start with giving off from what we love, selling ourselves, selling our possessions. So far, so good. Are we following?
Yeah, yeah. And Mr. Ahmed, what makes me interested in this verse, that Allah is not a kind of God to be an oppressor, to to talk with us in a rude way or in a must way. So he says, if you give me something, I will get you something. It's kind of beautiful, actually.
Yes. Yes. On this level, it's very beautiful that he communicates with having other attributes in mind. Yes, he has the attribute of Al-Jabbar, the one that compels, right? So everything that moves, there must be a pushing force, isn't it? Yes, there is this, but he's also at the same time the most compassionate, the most merciful. So the names balance itself out. It is very balanced. It's neither too soft that you will lose respect for it, neither too harsh that you will lose yourself before it, that you are so afraid you're not even reaching God, because God is imminent and transcendent at the same time. Have you heard of these two concepts before? The imminence of
Uh,
God and the transcendence of God?
I know the meaning of transcendence. What
Yes.
do you mean by
Okay, so that's why there are two other key terms in Islam that are very important. One is fear, and the other hope is hope. So God is at
okay?
the same time present in every expression of natural phenomena. Whatever you see, we see God being the closest, affecting on this, directing it, and creating everything about that particular thing. So God being
Okay.
in everything, not his that, not his essence, because it is too supreme to come into the natural world, but through his names, he's everywhere. While at the same time, he's the farthest. He's transcending time and space. He's transcending every category we have, conceptually or otherwise. So this is a logically is very hard. You say because our logic sometimes tells us is either God is here or God is not here. But there's a part of intuition that reconciles the both. God is here and not here at the same time. Not here in his essence, because the
Yeah,
world cannot tolerate God.
that is
Okay?
true. His manifestations are here, but
Yes.
his essence are there.
Yes, but his manifestations are commanded, so to speak, from his essence, because his attributes are flowing from his nature. So it's not like there's a disconnect, but there are different layers and levels. Okay, so speaking, okay, we're gonna come back to the Aristotle's four causes for a thing to be explained, and it's very, very interesting and very informing about the current discussions happening between science and religion. Okay, Miss Maria, whatever thoughts you have, please feel free to let us know in the chat. Okay, Mr. Muhammad, go ahead and read the highlighted ones whenever you see them.
Okay. By selling your property to me, you will become my soldier and act in my name. Far from being a mere recruit or irregular, you will be honored and free offer for an exalted monarch.
Yeah, this is when we sell our property, but we have to define what does it mean to sell it, obviously. It is just you're not attached to it anymore. I mean, we are seeing the separation happening every day. I mean, yesterday I saw a father, um, uh, an acquaintance of ours. Nasi man. He just, fell from a building and hit on the earth, died immediately right there. So he left, I don't know, two daughters, two sons. It was really shocking. It told me that things are not within our control and we should let go of everything. Right now, we could be like sitting and talking about things, but who guarantees that what's going to happen that's going to change the whole thing up, that's going to turn the table upside down? So, this idea, this perception is really important that whatever we're attached to, our health could be gone, our wealth could be gone, our beauty could be gone, our friends could be gone. Things that are we think are properties but are not. But once we let go of them, then if they go, let them go. I mean, this is a important psychological remedy. Okay. Anything else you want to say regarding this sentences?
Sir, I want to just say something. God's talks about in a very beautiful way. He talks with our logic, I think. We know he knows that uh, we love trading.
Yeah.
We don't love giving something without uh, a reward. So he basically says, if you give me your properties yourselves, I will give you something that uh, is everlasting.
Yeah, yeah.
There is no
You're
pain,
right.
there is no suffering, there is paradise.
Sure.
And of
This is.
course, I think this,
Go ahead.
uh, his um, khitab or his talking, his verses, don't you think it's for a certain type of group
Yeah, I was
of
gonna say
people?
this. Yeah, yeah, sure. Because he himself, but there's a man is talking about trade. But do you think he connects to God through a trade mindset? He's writing
Yeah.
this to a Turkey population that has gotten away from the basics of religion. So he wants to bring people
Mm,
through easy parables, not from hard philosophical, because nobody would read it,
yeah.
honestly. Very little people, elite people. And because there are different levels. So that's one of the important lenses we have to look from the Quran that yes, he talks about this idea of trade and transaction, but there are also verses to people who are more spiritually elevated
Yeah.
that you shouldn't wait for any reciprocity, any return, be it spiritual or material. So neither hell nor paradise is the arbiter or the pushing force for any of the
Yeah.
intentions that leads to the actions we have on the earth. That is this is the peak and pinnacle of true spirituality in my understanding. But God's pleasure is it should be sought as the sole teleological end of our worship. That God is pleased with us, and this is enough by itself. How he's gonna do with me once I'm dead, this is his business. I mean, I wouldn't want to
Mm,
interfere and determine what to get. He's the most wise. I mean, why would I interfere in that
yeah.
regard? This idea of multi levels. Some people may read it as contradictions in the Quran. There's this talking of trade and the talking of not wanting anything in return. Isn't this a contradiction? But this is just basic category error of things being of different levels, of different layers. So with this, we can reconcile this seemingly paradoxical um, verses in the Quran. Seemingly, not
Yeah.
fundamentally.
And
Okay, go.
even Sayyid Nursi in one part of his book talks about that this Fahmi Noor or uh, this his books,
Okay.
um, he says that according to the extent of your knowledge, to the extent of your spiritual uh, broadness, you understand this book.
Oh yeah.
Even the Pramaganyur.
Oh, I see. Yeah, right. That's a very important note to land in there. Thank you. Okay, so start from, continue reading from the noblest officer.
The noblest officer is the messenger. The compassionate decree is the Quran, which states God has bought from the believers their selves and their possessions in exchange for paradise. Should
Yes,
I
this is the
continue
verse.
reading?
Yeah, continue.
Everything will leave our hands, perish, and be lost. Is there no way to make it eternal? To preserve it while engaged in such thoughts, the heavenly voice of the Quran is heard.
Okay, continue.
Um, do you want me to only read the highlighted one?
Yeah, for now, read the highlighted ones.
Okay. The transient property becomes everlasting, and the other one, the
And read
moments
from
of one's
read this
present
one too.
life
Read from here. This part.
becomes everlasting. This waning life,
Waning life, a life that is going and
waning
withering.
life.
Yeah,
Okay, this waning life, when given to the eternal and subsistent
got it.
uh, being of majesty and spent for his sake, is transmuted into permanence and gives everlasting fruits. The moments of one's present life apparently vanish and not
As
as
do.
do kernels and seeds, but then the flowers of happiness open and blossom in the realm of eternity, and each presents a luminous, lovely scene in the intermediate realm of the grave.
Yes, there is no scientific inspection that verifies this reality. I mean, maybe a scientifically minded person say, how do we know that these momentary moments of given to God gets transmuted, the form changes into eternal and permanent realities, reverberating and echoing in the span of eternity. Yes, there is nothing of a scientific explanation that would explain that. So either we reject it or we humble ourselves to the truths that reveal to people who have lived their life in a purified and sanctified way, and even an intellectual way. Intellect of practical reason, because we have the distinction between pure reason that penetrates into physical topics and domains, and we have the practical reason that is the ground for communicating and connecting to the unseen world. That knowledge gets revealed as opposed to you going to knowledge, something like this. It's revealing to you. Yes, he's talking about seeds of good deeds, but also we have the seeds of um, Tuba from paradise and Zakum from hell. So both is true. If the seeds you're cultivating are of an evil, immoral sort, then we can see that it'll have a permanent negative outcome. Okay, continue, Mr. Muhammad.
Okay. For example, if you lose your intelligence for the sake of your carnal soul, it becomes ill, such as an ill omened, destructive and debilitating instrument
Debilitating.
that it burdens you with the sad sorrows of the past and terrifying fears of the future. This is why sinful people frequently resort to drunkenness or other frivolous pleasures. But if you sell your intelligence to its true owner and use it on his behalf, it becomes like a mysterious key unlocking the infinite treasure houses of compassion and wisdom-filled vaults, and elevates you to the rank of a pious and righteous guide
Yeah,
deserving eternal
yeah.
happiness.
So basically, from what she's saying, intelligence is like an air conditioner. مبردة قبلين, okay? So when there
Okay.
is an air conditioner is receptive of the air, it doesn't generate the air. If there is smoke and bad smell outside, it's gonna bring it inside the house. And the intelligence is receptive as much as it is creative. So it receives from the state of the soul. So we have the soul and the intelligence that is a faculty of the soul. Right now, I am my soul, Ahmed. And Ahmed has a faculty, and so does everybody else, which we call intelligence. And Ahmed is beyond intelligence. That's why artificial intelligence may have computing computational power, but that's why humans are not computational creatures. We're not working algorithmically, input and output without there's anything in between. You see? So we have the soul, that the intelligence is situated and located within it, and the state of it determines the direction of the intelligence. Okay, intelligence, as I said, it is receptive, is like a tool. It is not guiding life. So something else higher than that is guiding. Sometimes we call it Satan, the Nafs, right? And if they're not organized, the intelligence could become a burden and giving you hurt. I was recently following one of the most tragic books written in the history of humanity called The World as Will and Idea. Have you heard of that book?
No, but
So, have you heard
you
of
heard you
Arthur
mentioned.
Schopenhauer?
Yeah, yeah, you mentioned it before.
Yeah, he in this book, I revisited it. It's like a metaphysics from hell, and he did us the service of sharing his unhappiness with us. So he shared his or disorganized all over the place, mayhemful, pandemoniumful uh, state of his soul that he lost, I think, his parents when he was a kid, and he had a lot of rough, unstable, unhealthy relationship with himself and with the others. That once you hear a scholar talking about his book, or once you read his book yourself, you can understand that I better go and read some Quran after that. Otherwise, it's gonna shake the core of your belief. It is so dark, so gloomy, so melancholic, so
Mm.
pessimistic of God's existence. He says it's an evil thing, and everything we see is in fights. Things are at each other's throat all the time, and we have a lot of pains. Ultimately, we die, and all for nothing. So I think he could be a good example of how the intellect, he was very intelligent, obviously, became a destructive and debilitating instrument. Means an instrument that would bring you down, okay, that annihilates you. Yeah,
So
metaphysics from
basically,
hell.
you are saying, I think what I get from you, you are saying that it's related to the soul. Uh,
Yeah,
what type of soul you are having is gonna reflect your, or it's
intelligence.
gonna be yeah, your intelligence.
Yeah, how the intelligence picks information, how the
Yeah.
intelligence
How?
constructs the material world. Because let me say one more thing before I forget it. Sorry.
Okay.
Once we interact with the material world, obviously we're not directly there. We have a lot of lenses that through them we are interacting with the things. Like for example, when I'm touching this, there must be, I don't know, there must be light for me to perceive what it is, and there are categories of time and space that are not found as particulars in the universe. Let me repeat: time, unity, space, and other categories, they are not found in nature. Once a person talks about how there is interactions, connections, unity, there's this sense of time and space, nothing are out there. They're all mental categories. So they're arising from the state of the soul. I believe that these connections we're making are dependent on the state of the soul. Otherwise, we see the world as only spatial, only temporal in the sense of transient, and is going to end at the end. And the unity is only material. There's no metaphysical, immaterial unity. So therefore, the state determines the categories, and the world appears thus depending on the state of the soul. Mr. Muhammad, you want to say something?
Yeah, I just want clarification from your point. How did you get to that point that our soul is kind of director or a commander to our intellectuals? Because actually, it's a very complicated thing,
Yeah, yeah.
and it's not mentioned clearly in the Quran or to my knowledge, to extent of my knowledge in the hadith of our Prophet. So, how can you,
Because we
could you
observe it.
clarify that?
It is something observable. I mean, you could see people having been through different stages of their lives, especially intellectuals, coming to that conclusion. Especially Tolstoy, he talks a lot about how it was his state of the soul that determined his happiness, how he connected to nature and himself, not the data, not the particular sentences, not the syllogisms or logic shoppings. And I think religion is nothing but a submission to every faculty and letting things in God's hand and the world appearing a different way. So always the Quran is filled with utterances and instances that the world is not what we're looking at normally. So there is a higher level. And once we observe the people who are only purely not connected to God, almost 90% of them see the world not as the Quran sees it. 90% of intellectuals who have not whose states are not in a state of submission. Because Tolstoy, as well, is my prime example, one of my prime examples, that once he submitted, then things revealed. Before his submission, before his purification, tazkiyah, he's also talking about purification. He said, I broke away from doing evil things, my intentions were pure, and from then things started to appear to my intelligence that before it didn't appear and catch his intelligence. So the intelligence caught only what the state of his soul was in that particular time. Once his state transformed through submission and through humility and through other virtues that Islam emphasizes, that tazkiyah is happening through these measures, right? You do tazkiyah from self-restraint, from taqwa, from practices. Once we're engaging ourselves in these states, the same intelligence looks the world from a Quranic perspective.
Yeah,
You see?
that is true.
Yes. And
It's like it's just like opening a door for your soul. Because I actually don't believe that there is a bad soul or there is a good soul.
yeah, there are
Every
different
soul
degrees.
are pure and yeah. No, I think every soul is pure, but it's like for disbelievers or for those that are do evil things, it's like they are trapping their soul in a room and um, there is no way that their soul can basically shine or
Yeah.
do a good thing. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
but for the believers, I think it's like cleaning the barriers or cleaning the windows so that your soul be
Yeah, yeah.
nice خلق or thing that God created from his nafakh. I think every soul is clean and pure, but it's us that we don't let it uh,
Yeah, shine.
shine.
I think,
This is my view.
yeah, basically, I agree hugely. And I think I bring your attention to look at the soul as a bulb, a light bulb, okay? من ده أنا كان في حاجة مني كمان بس doesn't care. هاي globik asay, okay? Globik
Okay,
asay,
we have
okay,
seen
bien.
balls.
Right. So the soul is like this. It is not us that have goodness. And God says, whatever good is coming is not coming from you, it's coming from God, right? So the light is coming to the bulb insofar as it is connected to the bulb. It is to the bulb, the light bulb, right? But
Okay,
connected. So it's not a matter of
Rasta.
us making ourselves. It's like most of the things is God doing. Like we just submit to God and do the practices, and He's making the transformation happen within us. It is not that like our will doing and bringing all these things about. We cannot will to be happy, isn't it? Like if a person is really sad, you cannot say, I'm gonna will to be happy. إرادة أجولانم كبم من خوشتي وانية. Right? It's a side effect. This happiness is a side effect of your submission, of your lifestyle in general. These are not
Yeah,
things.
that is true. I agree.
Yes.
I agree with you.
Yeah, I mean, the other week I was in a mosque. The guy was like this, one of the Salafi brothers, and he said something really
Okay.
interesting regarding Ibn Qayyim al-Jawzi's thought on human goodness, and that was the idea of cultivating the good virtues and removing the vices. So basically, the soul to be receptive, okay, it should be, you know, you should try to, uh, firstly, the first attempt is to remove things about your soul that shouldn't be there, or at least suppress them or put them in their own place. And then trying to
Okay.
cultivate. How do you cultivate? You don't cultivate وقتها يعني
Yalan cüzdanım.
پیکێڵی بەڵێ ینی زمینەکە
Öyle.
هەست دەکەم زیاتر لێرە زمینەکە ئەسازێنی دوایی گەورەکردنی دار و ئەو دارە با بڵێن کە فەزیلەتێکی جوان
Bana
بێت
zemin
ئەوە زۆر نییە.
esaslarını ruh.
ینی ئەو ئیرادەی زیاتر زمینەکە سازەکەی زمینێکیشی خۆت نییە عادەتەنخوای گەورە کاتەگۆرەکانی داناو لە توێ بۆیە سیرەکەی شتێکی زۆر زۆر بەسیتی فریویلیتی هە لێرە ئەگەر if you think about it. Okay, so continue from the eye. That's very beautiful. I mean, read it, then we're going to see it.
Okay. The eye is a window through which the spirit looks at this world. If you use it on behalf of your carnal soul without selling it to God Almighty by gazing at transient, impermanent beauties and spectacles, it panders to lust and other carnal desires. But if you sell it to its all-seeing maker and use it on his behalf and within his limits, it rises to the rank of a reader of the great book of the universe, a witness of the miracles of his creation, a blessed bee, sucking on the blossoms of mercy in the garden of this world.
Yeah, so an eye, because the eye is a window to the soul, right? It is the soul that is now looking, not the eye, but the eye being used for the soul to behold, to witness. And when the eye is gazing towards things that are impermanent, transient beauties, okay? Spectacles are like a synonym, is a synonym for beauty. It's going to be transformed without your will into lust because it is commanding and issuing from the carnal soul, نفس الأمارة بالسوء. But the other shift that happens is once you sell it to God, meaning that you're going to use it within His limits. It is gonna, your eye, the same eye, is going to be given the blessing and bounty of looking and witnessing the world as a reader and as a witness of the miracles. So imagine how sweet it is to read the great book of the universe. A scientist may gaze and lust over beauties. And the scientist thinks that he is the interpreter and the reader of the great book of the universe. They think they have the crown and the last say of what the universe is made of and why it is there, so to speak. And but here it is the same eye can see the world and witness it. Witness what? The miracles of God, God's names and attributes. And you cannot get there if you're not in control of your lust. This is very telling and scary for a lot of people because this past year I taught the seven deadly sins to my students from year 7 to year 9, and many of them struggled. Maybe 90% of them struggled with this particular vice. 90%. So basically, right there, according to this, if you cannot take that in control, you cannot see the spiritual beauty of the universe, and hence you're heading yourself towards atheism. Yes. Then
Nice.
this is
Thank you.
one faculty we have. Let's go to the faculty of taste. I'm reading from here.
Okay. But if you sell it to the all-munificent provider, the sense of taste rises to the rank of a skilled overseer at divine compassionate treasure houses, a grateful inspector in the kitchens of the eternally bestowed owns power.
Eternally besought. Beseech is the verb, the present simple. Beseech means you beg. Everything is eternally begging God for to exist. Aristotle said the universe is co-eternal with God, means the universe has always existed with God. I mean, I know that is problematic, theologically speaking, But what he later says is everything has been co-eternal with God and is maintained, the heavenly bodies, everything in the universe, because of the love for God. They're so admiring God, they're so in love with God that they cannot not exist. They've always existed because of God wanting to contemplate itself, as he's saying, and the universe being in awe. يعني همو قاعدون لستيتي حيرانة حيران بنا.
So basically, you're saying universe lasted or
Um,
existed with God?
so not theologically. I guess it is not co-eternal. Theologically, it is very problematic to see the physical universe coexisted with God. But what I believe, what I want to bring into the discussion is Ibn Taymiyyah's thoughts. Very, very interesting. He says God has lots of names and attributes, right? One of his highest attributes is khalaq or khaliq. And this is an eternal creativity
Yeah.
that God, in his own nature, from his own nature, should or even must create eternally. For his for that particular name are the names of power and knowledge and will to be in operation. There should be, so to speak, an eternal creativity. But creativity of particular physical things or creativity, createdness of the universal things. So he doesn't think physical things have always existed with God, but the idea of the physical things have always existed. So yeah, he has an interesting take on this, and we have people like Shahrazuri, Imam Ghazali obviously doesn't believe in the co-eternity, and I think none
I
of the
think I
Muslim
get it.
scholars believe in the co-eternal physical nature of the universe with God. Co-eternal, the piko hamishaben, and the soul is seems co-immortal. The soul doesn't have has a beginning but doesn't have an end. Azalinia abadiya. It is not.
Yeah.
It is not pre-eternal. It is
It is.
post-eternal. What was it?
I said it's created.
So the soul is created.
It was not existed. Yeah, yeah.
So
It's
yeah, the
created.
idea is
It's not.
God's
It does
eternal.
not
Yeah.
existed.
Mhm. God's eternal creativity, according to Ibn Taymiyyah, is not of particular things, but of creation itself. So particular things come, glow, and perish. It's like a light. Okay, our life's gonna be, I don't know, 70, 80 years. If you look
Okay.
in the through the span of human history or history of the universe, it's just like a little light came with the name of Ahmed, glue, died. So does everybody's
Yeah,
lives. And he says, yes, material things are not
understood.
eternal, the things, but the act of creation, he says, this universe had a beginning and it will have an end. But there could have been an eternal creation of universes, which is the multiverse is not something so ungodly, although we don't have enough observations to support that. But there are religious hints that God, through his names and
Yeah,
attributes, could have
that is true.
yeah, sustained and created an eternal creativity and creation. We don't understand the full know-how of how it works, but if it works, it is not a defeater of of God and of religion. When we once we say there are other universes before our universe, it is completely fine because they ultimately depend on God for every movement, for everything there is. And in the coming session, I'm going to talk to you about Aristotle's four causes for anything to be explained and how the Ibn Sina and other traditions understood it. It is going to be connected to our discussions in the coming pages as it'll be relevant as you're going to see. So we are under a minute. We'll be back within 10 minutes, okay? Or 5 minutes if it's fine for you.
Oh, okay, sir.
Okay?
As you like.